Hello and welcome to Fire Headlines, where we discuss the hottest topics in fire service news. I'm your host, Samantha Didion. On the panel this week, we have Ken, along with Erica Ray, the information specialist at the Santa Clara County Fire Department. Erica, welcome to Fire Headlines.
Thank you so much, Samantha, and thank you for having me here today.
So Erica is joining us this week to discuss a topic that's not new to the show, but is growing in importance in today's digital age. And that is the role of social media for a fire department. But we're going to be talking about it in the sense of community engagement and strategic communications. So before we dive into that conversation, I'm first going to hand the reins over to you, Ken, so you can share with our listeners how you and Erica became connected.
Thank you, Samantha. I really appreciate it. Well, first of all, Erica, it is so wonderful to have you on the podcast. It's always wonderful to see you. I think you and I have known each other for, I don't know, somewhere in the 15-year range now. I think the thing that I really want to share with our listeners is, well, first, my absolute glee to know that you work for the Santa Clara County Fire Department because, hey, come on, Santa Clara County Fire, why not? But I really want to share with them sort of the initial part of my journey. So as fire chief for the Santa Clara County Fire Department, I was looking to bring a truly professional public information program to our organization. We didn't have a really robust program at the time. So I began my journey just looking for someone to educate me. I thought, I'm going to model this after what some of my friends had done in their organization, whether it was Orange County Fire Authority or San Bernardino County Fire, and I started doing a little bit of outreach. And then that brought me to you. And at the time, I believe you were working for the city of Los Altos, if I remember correctly. And you were gracious enough to sit down with me. And I think within the first couple of moments, I realized, wow, there is so much more here that I need to learn. I came at it from a very traditional public information perspective of how do we make sure that we share information during an emergency with the community? How do we get them the information they need? And within minutes, I realized that's just a tiny little drop in a very large bucket of what this role can be for the organization. And since that time, I have learned so much from you. And as a fire chief, I want our listeners, please pay attention because I think there's a lot more for us from a strategic communication standpoint to take away from our engagement with public information or social media or the community. There's just a lot more power in that communication, I think, than many of us realize. And so that's why I'm really excited to have you with us today because I'm really excited to share what I have learned. Well, you're going to share what I have learned, I guess, probably a better way to put it, but I appreciate you being here, so thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Chief Kehmna. I really appreciate that. And, um, you touched on so much right there, right? I think the social media landscape is always evolving, and public safety professionals, we really have a vital role to play in maintaining a safe and informed community. And social media, when I think of comprehensive communication strategy, social media really rises to the top. We talk about in communications, particularly in the public sector, how do we engage with our stakeholder groups? How do we get them the information they need, not only during a crisis, but in general, right? How do we keep them informed so that they're safer? How do we help them understand our organization and our value that we add to the community? And social media is really designed to capture people's attention. So let's give them good content. Let's give them content that's going to make them safer, smarter when it comes to public safety related items. And this is just a number one tool to be able to do that.
So, Erica, can you share with our listeners how can fire departments leverage social media to build stronger relationships with their communities before an emergency ever even happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all, definitely understand the importance of social media for those crisis communications moments, right? But, when you think about it, how do you build your audience so that they're there to receive those crisis communications when the time comes? It's your day-to-day social media management that really engages audiences, helps them see you as someone they want to follow and engage with. So the value of the time that you place on those day-to-day social media posts or those more strategic ones that are maybe campaign related, right? You've got a larger message right now is National Preparedness Month. Next month is Fire Prevention Month. So those I think of as like a bigger campaign where social media is one of the avenues that you use to get a message out. So the other thing to consider is your audiences, right? Your audiences are vast. And we obviously think about the communities that we serve as key members that we want to speak to and engage with. But you have to think of the others as well, right? We're a special district, so we serve 7 cities and towns. Each of those communities, each of their elected official groups, their stakeholder groups, those are all target demographics for us, in addition to thinking about, our employees and people who we may want to work for us someday. So, each platform, social media platform, has some nuances, right? And they draw different audiences. And so, as a social media manager, we're really tuned into those nuances. And we understand that, the younger generation, what are they about right now? It's all TikTok, right? Quick little videos that are going to be fun and snappy, have great music, whatever it is. Facebook is kind of where everyone still is. It's tending to trend a little bit more towards an older audience, but there are still youth on there. Instagram is another one, right? Twitter is another one. I think of Twitter really as, I'm sorry, I should say X, right? Formerly Twitter, now known as X. I look at that really as a media platform, but still, content is posted across all of them. One of the things you touched on too is, how do we build those key audiences? And Nextdoor, it's really become such a great platform for those more targeted communications, right? So just the value of diversifying what content you are creating, what platforms you're engaging on. When you post that content, all of it kind of plays in.
One of the things that, and you brought this up a moment ago, Erica, one of the things that I'm really sensitive to is the use of any of our communication tools, but specifically social media for those target groups. Because as you say, I mean, on social media, I follow a number of fire departments and I see a lot of stuff about things taking place at the training tower. They show, apparatus pulling into and out of the station and any number of things. The target group for that information or who that hits, as you already said, looking to attract folks to come to the organization. That is a fantastic use of the medium. But the target group that might follow nextdoor.com, who might be looking for a different kind of more targeted information about their community, specifically when something is going on, how do you attract that group, the demo that is the homeowner that you're going to want to communicate with when the crisis does happen? How do you target them so that you get engagement with that community early on?
I think that there's no one way to slice that apple, really, right? It's really about diversifying because everybody engages in different ways. Social media is just part of a comprehensive communication strategy, but you have to think of all of the places that you can promote your social media, right? If you are doing a community event and you've got a resource booth, have a QR code on the table that people can scan and connects them to your social media pages. If you are teaching a class, for instance, make sure you're telling people to follow you on social media. One of the things that I'm really working on right now is utilizing each of our service city and town PIOs to help amplify our message, right? So providing them with, timely, relevant content that they can then push out through their different channels. And so one of the strategic goals of Santa Clara County Fire Department right now is because we are a special district, it's not Los Gatos Fire Department or Los Altos Fire Department, it's Santa Clara County Fire. So we really want the community to understand like we're your fire department. And so helping them through visually seeing, maybe it's an e-newsletter that the city has put out, a written newsletter or annual report or something that shows us, you know, just seeing your name and the great content that you're putting out helps people kind of draw back to you.
Well, that's a really good point. Especially for, Santa Clara County Fire Department that serves a number of incorporated jurisdictions, and the fire district that is the unincorporated areas of the county. That's how a lot of fire districts in the state of California, at least, are set up. And being able to communicate quickly with your elected officials about something that's going on and giving them timely information, is really critical. It can be really challenging, to keep everybody abreast of what's going on in the organization, communicate with them quickly. So that's a really good point. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just some additional thoughts that came up, Chief, is thinking about all of your different pieces of collateral, right? Maybe it's a business card, it is a mailing that you're going to send out, your website, making sure that your social media is prominently displayed in each of those areas also kind of just helps get the word out.
So, Erica, what are some pitfalls or challenges that maybe you've seen fire departments come across when trying to get their foot in the door with social media? Like, say it's someone who still has an old-fashioned phone, they're not up to date on all these various platforms. What are some things that they can look out for when trying to enter this digital world?
I always talk to folks about when they're getting started, particularly if it's an agency that is really just starting to put a real focus on social media, is understanding the goals, right? What is the goal of your agency? What is the voice? Like, for me, I always want to come across as informative and friendly and engaging, right? So those are the kind of key things that drive the voice of all of the communications that I put out for the fire department. And then I think that there is a little bit of a challenge when you think about who is great at creating content. Usually it's like younger folks, right? And they may not have that bigger picture awareness of how careful you need to be, that every word matters, and the strategic communication kind of goal behind it. So I think that it is, really important to invest in the people that are running your social media, send them to trainings. If there's an agency in your area that is doing amazing work, send them to go meet with the folks that are doing it. One of the things I love, I've worked in the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and all that before I came to the public sector. And one of the things I love so much about working in the public sector is that nothing is proprietary, right? We're not in competition with one another. Our wins are each other's wins. So if someone is doing something great, if I'm doing something great and someone comes to talk to me, here you go. Here's everything I did. Take it, adapt it to your needs, and make it shine. And our communities are all safer for that. I think one of the other challenges I see, and one of the challenges that I have fallen in, and I've really learned from over the many years we've known each other, Chief Kehmna, is, your PIOs. I think every agency now, every fire chief understands the value of having a PIO. And inadvertently, I think sometimes it's not supported as much as it needs to be as far as resources go, right? So PIOs, you think about it. We need to be experts in media communications. Often we're running your website, we're running your social media, we're creating videos, we're taking photos. All of these things take time. And to do social media well, you do have to have a strategy behind it. I've got a content calendar for every day and month of the year. And I tie that into bigger campaigns that are going on, awareness campaigns, etc., and some of the activities that we're doing as the fire department. So all of that really to say, if you are hearing from your folks that are running your public information team, or they're a sole resource, just consider what they're saying, and maybe try to adjust things as needed, or, think of outside the box, like maybe you could bring in a fellow or an intern. But really, with that said, never give an intern or a fellow the keys to the castle, right? They are there to help create the content, but you always want your trusted experts to be the ones to vet that content and, press go when it goes live.
Right. And every agency and department more or less has their own brand and their identity. And whoever's running your social media is the one putting that out there for the world, the one creating that for your department. So how, to kind of piggyback off of that question, how do you help fire departments see the value in investing in someone who is specifically trained for this rather than just, having it as a side task for one of their admin staff, for example?
That's a really great question, Samantha. And I think, the first thing that really comes to mind for me is that your communication team can make or break you, right? It's so critical. They are your reputation managers, they are your spokespeople. And so it's really interesting. Like, I love working in public safety, and I really appreciate, Chief Kehmna and the leadership that I have right now at Santa Clara County Fire. They understand that the perspective I bring, the years of experience in communications and my past experience in marketing, that is all very valued, and I feel very validated when I share an opinion or I share a perspective, and I'm met with not resistance but maybe curiosity if they don't quite get it right away. But everyone that is I feel anyway, public servants are doing it for a reason, right? We are there for the greater good. And so if you're just getting started out, you may not get it right away, right? And you may have to learn. And there may be some moments where you don't hit the mark, but measurement is something that is just built into social media, right? So I would advise pay attention to those metrics. You can see what is working and what is not working by looking at the engagement and the reach and all of those metrics on each of your posts.
One of the things that I continue to just believe in, because I really felt it. I felt the transition for me in a leadership position in understanding the role of strategic communications. And I think that many might think of strategic communications in the moment when either the thing is happening or you've made the decision, it's time to communicate the message, and a bunch of stuff has already happened, and now we're talking about how to communicate it. I think the part that I find a lot of, and I certainly missed this. I'm not saying I didn't. What I really missed was the value of engagement with your strategic communications staff before the decision is made, as part of making the decision. The strategic level thinking that our PIO staff has done, our communication staff has done at County Fire, really changed my perspective on the role that it plays in leading an organization, watching the political landscape, watching for those landmines, being in front of them by not minutes, but by weeks or months or even longer, being way out in front of that stuff. And I think that to me is probably the most valuable part. If you're going to invest in a program, if you're going to really take this seriously, the return on that investment is tenfold, if not more so than what you put into it. And I may have drank too much of the Kool-Aid and maybe too much of a zealot, but Erica, tell me, am I clueless, or am I seeing that correctly?
No, I think you definitely are. One of the things I think is so critical for public information folks is to do that media monitoring and to be aware of what is happening nationally, locally, because everything that you do ties in, right? And there are opportunities to avoid some crisis comms if you are mindful of what's happening elsewhere. And there are opportunities to really maybe amplify a message because it's relevant in a larger news context, right? I will really credit Chief Robert Sapian from San Jose Fire Department, where I worked previously. When you're talking about strategic communication, I mean, he really talk about strategists, right? All of my work, I have a work plan that helps me track projects and project and all of that. Everything on that work plan is tied to the organization's strategic priorities. And I brought that with me to Santa Clara County Fire Department. It's something now that, you know, I question, like, how did I not ever do this before? Right. So for me, everything I do, all of my activities, whatever it may be, tie into a larger strategic priority for the organization.
Well, that is fantastic. And Chief Sapien is indeed a strategic thinker. He and I have known each other for, I dare say, several decades. We've known each other, and he's a good man. He's a good leader, and thanks for giving him the shout out.
Absolutely.
But is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Well, scheduling posts, right? I want to say that with caution, because if something does come up, right, you have some emergency, always make sure that you're ready to press pause on that scheduled post, right? Because the last thing you want is maybe it's a pub ed message or some fluffy message, and there's some critical incident going on. So I just say that with a word of caution. And then, Chief, you mentioned strategic communications, right? And I think just, for chiefs to be mindful too, that social media is one part of a strategic communication approach, right? A comprehensive communication approach. We can't undervalue, like you said, those knocks on the firehouse door, the events that you go to in the community, and just the one-on-one interactions that our folks have as they're out in the community. So, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole. It won't be totally comprehensive on its own. Definitely, what I've seen at the conferences that our leaders are going to is they're seeing stuff about social media, and maybe they just don't know where to start, or they get it, but hopefully this helps them have a better, more comprehensive understanding of some of the benefits and challenges and all of that with social media usage for fire agencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone says that the fire service is pretty slow to catch on to some new things, but I do truly think that social media is one of the things that they are embracing. I hear more and more fire departments talking about how they're taking it more seriously, which is great to hear. And hopefully this episode helps that continue. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. If you have a question for the panel, please reach out to us at fireheadlines@wfca.com and let us know what's on your mind. We'll see you back here next week for more Fire Headlines.